Hello and welcome to episode 244 of the Daily Sales Message Sales Podcast, where every single day I share a sales tip, some sales strategies, sales advice, techniques, stories, anecdotes, all sorts of things that are designed to help you feel more confident and ultimately sell more stuff too. In today's episode, as I check my notes, we're talking about this notion of having a buyer's guide. Now, this might feel like a consumer-centric thing to do, a B2C, a business-to-consumer thing to do, a buyer's guide, but it can be really applicable in all sorts of different industries, and it works on a couple of levels. First of all, it allows you to create a free asset, a lead magnet that you can share with people that is genuinely of value, because you're saying, look, when you're looking to buy a widget or this, that, whatever, here are the things to look out for. Genuinely, these are things you need to look out for. There we go. So we're informing our buyer, we're adding value to them. They've got a souvenir, a takeaway, something that they can have. It implies that we're the experts in our space. There's all sorts of good things that come from creating an asset, a buyer's guide. The second benefit from having a buyer's guide is, of course, that we paint ourselves as one of the best choices they have. Now, we can't go too crazy and say we're amazing and everybody else is terrible, but obviously we can paint ourselves in a favorable light because we're choosing characteristics that will be beneficial to us. But nonetheless, we are now in much longer form explaining, here is our offering. I'm going to use a pen as my example. Here is our offering. Here are the other offerings in the marketplace. Here's how you choose. So if you're choosing the best pen, make sure it's blue. Make sure it does this, make sure it does that, make sure it does... Oh, and would you look at that, we do all of those things. So you don't need to point out necessarily explicitly that you do all those things and you are the best choice, but in your buying guide, you're going to be highlighting things that obviously are going to put you in a good light. So those are the reasons why a buyer's guide is good, but what do you put in a buyer's guide? Well, thanks for asking. Let me just completely think off the top of my head and tell you. Well, if you're thinking about buying anything, what are your considerations? There'll be price. So what does it cost? How long does it take to deliver? How long does it take to work? How long does it take to last? Is it compatible with what I've got currently? Do I need anything else? Any other equipment, training, people, resources, whatever, to make it work? Those kind of things. Think about the practical, it's essentially like integration questions. So if you take the item or the service or the product you're selling, how does that integrate into the life of the buyer? That will tell you what questions that they'll be asking. And those are what you would include in your buyer's guide. So how long does it take? How long should it take to do this? Well, on average, it should take this, blah, blah, blah. If it takes less, be careful because this might not happen. If it takes longer, be careful because this might also be a problem. But exploring the questions your buyer has and coming up with a list of characteristics, a list of things they should check off that help them make the best buying decision for themselves. That's ultimately what we want to put in a buyer's guide. It's not going to be 100% unbiased because we are creating it, but we want to try and make it as fair as possible. We don't want to unfairly promote what we're doing, but we will, of course, be putting ourselves in a good light. So that's the notion of having a buyer's guide, which is a great thing to use as a lead magnet or as a positioning tool to position yourself as a person or a company of confidence and experience and understanding in your industry. Right, that's it for this extremely detailed episode of the Daily Sales Message today. Tomorrow in episode 245, we're going to be talking about persistence, but persistence without something important. It's okay to persist. It's not okay to do this particular thing. I'll cover that in more detail tomorrow. In the meantime, if you haven't already, please hit like, subscribe, comment, share, interact with this video, this audio podcast, wherever you're enjoying this episode of the Daily Sales Message. Interact with it in some way. A review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify is really, really beneficial for us, but whatever works for you. But if you can interact in some way, it just helps us to reach more people with our positive, free, and totally actionable sales tips every single day. Thank you for listening or watching all the way to the end. I do appreciate it. I'll catch you tomorrow for another quite detailed edition of the Daily Sales Message.